Welcome to the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative, Fresno and Clovis. We're not too far from Fulton Street. Many of you know that Fulton was a mall before, now it's a street. And if you haven't come out to check out the restaurants, there are some delicious restaurants. Downtown is actually happening. There are people running and jogging and living in downtown, and it's slowly growing. But today we're going to be talking about books, and our author today is Jonathan Archie. Mr. Archie has several books out, and he's going to be talking about them here on L. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I am the ninth son of a local pastor in the city. My father's now deceased. God rest his soul. But I come from a family of 11. And we've been in ministry in the local church here, trying to make a difference. And so I grew up in the church, and that's part of my matriculation. And I came to Fresno when I was 3 years old, I think, or something, and grew up here, went through all the public schools here and college here. So Fresno is home. It's home.
I want to ask you a question about having a big family. I love big families. We're on number 3.
Okay. Congratulations.
And they're all small.
Congratulations.
4, 3, and 1 years old.
Okay, good.
And sometimes people look at me and say, "You're crazy. How many kids you gonna?" I love it.
Yeah.
Tell us about growing up in a big family.
I think it's one of the most amazing things when you are put in a situation where you have to be creative in finding ways to get along with people who think differently than you think. When you don't have a whole lot of money, you have to be resourceful. So I think what a big family has done for me is it's allowed me to think outside of my norm and outside of my limitations and find ways to make myself happy. There was a lot of interacting. We had fun growing up. I loved it. I really treasured those years of my childhood being in a big family. A lot of fun. And you know, what we couldn't afford, we would make and create. And, you know, so it allowed our creative side to really come alive.
And then you originally were born in Sacramento, not too far off the 99 there,
Right.
ended up in Fresno.
Yes.
In your opinion, was that a good move?
Yes. As a kid, of course, I loved to go back and visit my cousins and stuff, aunts and uncles and everything. But when I came up in Fresno, Fresno was a great city. I mean, I have wonderful memories of my childhood here. Great move, great city. I grew up at a time when the schools were top notch. I was very involved. I was at Fresno High was, like, I think the premier school when I was going there. That's my biased opinion. But yeah, I had a great time. Yeah, great childhood.
And then you at some point went to Fresno Pacific and Fresno City College. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, after graduating, I was in the top 1% of Fresno High at that time.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
by the way.
Thank you. I loved school. Academics was my strong suit. So I wanted to really go away, and my father was not fancying the idea of me going overseas. So it became part of a concession plan to go to City College and then Pacific. It wasn't my first choice. But I kind of held a little grudge against my dad, you know. But I was chosen by the Rotarians here in Fresno to do an overseas study. But what happened was they switched the paperwork. The host family from Europe switched it to Venezuela, and at that time, Venezuela was going through some military. They were having some coups and some unrest, and my dad just didn't feel safe. Yeah. So he said, "No, stay home, go to school," and that's what I did.
So your father, rest his soul.
Yes.
He was a pastor. Talk about growing up with a dad that's a pastor. And I ask you the question because, you know, at my church, I'm close to the pastor.
Okay.
And so everything is always philosophical.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, you know, he'll fix, he'll correct
Right.
things. And so some people may not like that. I like it.
Right.
But in your opinion, tell us a little bit about growing up in a household where your dad is the pastor.
Well, I was really blessed in that my father was he was my hero. I mean, I think he was the quintessential man. He embodied so many different aspects of of not only being a great man and a provider. He was a humanitarian. He had such a passion for social justice. He marched with Dr. King when he was in his teens. He had such a rich life coming from the South. And so when we would have our talks, of course, the son side of me got tired of all of the chores and stuff that he would make us do. But as I was getting older in my teens and high school and college years, I was just so enamored by the wealth of wisdom and just how everything in life he had an answer for. It was like, this is unreal. Nobody had, but he did. He literally was the rock bed of our family. So he's my hero. And even now, I'm who I am because of he and my mother. She's now carrying on his legacy. But they put some time in. Yeah, and really laid a good foundation. That's going back to what you said about big families. All we had was each other. So when you don't have a lot of money, it requires you to really be creative. And one of those things is you find ways to spend time with each other, to grow as a family, and that's what we did.
So off air we were talking, and you indicated that you're active and your family's active in the community. Why is activism important in your opinion? I mean, so we're all busy.
Right.
You're busy, I'm
Right.
busy.
Right.
We all got families.
Right.
It's easy for us to sit on the couch and say, you know what? Instead of motivating someone today, instead of putting fire in someone's belly, I'm just going to sit back, enjoy my meal, and watch some TV. In your opinion, what's the benefit of being active in the community?
So I'll make this brief because that's a loaded question.
You could tell that was one that
Yeah.
like you could spend a day answering.
It really is. It's provocative and cathartic. But I will say this: I'll give you two short reasons. One, from a spiritual standpoint, I believe that we are salt and light. I believe that it's part of our responsibility to be engaged and to be active in offering the right solutions to the social ills and the problems that people are facing. Secondly, I was at a conference in Florida last month, and there was a quote that I had read, and it said, "There are some things that are left unchanged in the universe until you change it."
Very creative, very nice.
And it resonated in my heart. There are some things, although God is infinite and omniscient and everything, there's some things he's left undone for us to really have a part in. And I believe that's where that proactiveness comes in, when we should, at every chance we can, take the time to really inspire people and help people.
So you've written 2 books, and you've got one you're writing now.
Yes.
That's almost done. I
Yes.
know because we talked off
Yes.
air about it.
Yes.
But before we go to the book you're promoting now, let's talk about your first book. What got you motivated to write?
Oh, Steve, this is really good. So I was kind of going through some family issues, had suffered some marital problems, and at the time it was painful. I couldn't talk about it, but I was trying to make sense of my life. I felt like I was a failure, and I was like, there's got to be a process to stuff. There's got to be a why, a reason. And as I began to go through this journey of healing and this spiritual quest of trying to understand what makes everything tick, what made me tick, what made me, God began to really deal with me about the process, everything in life, everything in creation, everything that has a form or a function. There's a process that governs it. And that became the canvas on which I began to explore how everything in our life has a process that governs it, and the challenge is learning from that process, gaining something that will help improve your quality of life, and that's how that book was born, through my pain.
So tell us about, I'm sorry to hear about your pain, by the way, but tell us about the first book.
So in the process, one of the first chapters, I start to talk about the process of life, and I go to its very basic element, how that we are, before we are an embryo, we are a zygote in our mother's womb. And I began to just talk about the process of life and the stages of life and the stages of growth. How when you look at a caterpillar, one of the reasons why we can't judge a situation or judge a person and write them off is because everybody's story has a process that governs it. And if you take the caterpillar, if you look at his life, or its life, I should say, if you write it off while it's in that stage, you'll miss its rebirth, you know? But as we see, as the caterpillar grows and as it metamorphoses, as it goes through, there's a part in its growth and development called the chrysalis, where when it's in that stage, it begins to break, its body begins to break down its original form, and then these bones begin to form in places where flesh was, right? And the creature begins to experience all this kind of pain, but it's a beautiful pain because it's going to change his form, it's going to change and shape his new life, his new nature, and give him something he never had, wings. And that's when that's the process of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. So I talk about just, you know, how everything in life has a process to it. So if you're in one season right now, don't become weary and faint-hearted. Live through it, grow through it, get through it, because there's a phase that will come after that will allow you to bloom and to blossom and to develop and grow into something wonderful and something beautiful.
Excellent analogy there. So now your second book, that's complete, and you're here talking about.
Yes.
It's a self-empowerment book.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So you can overcome it, you know, being in Los Angeles and dealing with people, you know, every day, every week, really having compassion on their plight. I mean, you know, when I was youth pastor, so I was working with a lot of single mothers, and I mean, in the stories they would come to me with, just the heartbreak of trying to rear kids in an urban setting was just challenging. And so I was like, God, what can I do? What can I say? I'm looking at their lives falling apart, and I was like, give me something that will help them to cope, help them to overcome what they're going through. And that's how that book was birthed. It started out as a teaching in our weekly youth services that turned into a book. I started really getting into wanting to help people have practical tools that they can use to really overcome adversity and challenges and situations in their life.
So if I read your book, what can I expect? How many chapters? Tell us a little bit about each chapter.
Okay, so the process is really good because in the I'm sorry, You Can Overcome it's really good, and that it's like I would say it's probably the sequel to the process in that it speaks to, I can't say every major human experience because that would not be true, but it speaks to 13, I guess, major core areas in a person's life. It addresses everything from dysfunction, phobias, addictions, to feelings of being inadequate. It's a self-help book that addresses, I think, just every major area in our life that we have, you know, concerns about. And so if you are in a place where you are feeling depressed, I have chapters that talk about how to overcome that. If you're dealing with feelings of low self-esteem, we address that. When it comes to moral issues, you know, if you feel like you are in a place where you are struggling, trying to find your identity, I help people in that. So it really speaks to a varying audience of people. Whenever people ask me that, it's really hard to say, because I didn't really write it as an autobiography. So when people read it, it's not like I'm telling you about my life.
Story, yeah, your story, no.
But there are some things that are very hard-hitting and riveting, you know, but I had to make that disclaimer. This really is not about me, because I say I am a hope dealer, right? So because of what I do, it just allowed me to be able to speak from a broad platform. But yeah, it addresses, a lot of financial issues, how to cope with abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, I don't know if I can say this, but when back in the 90s when there was this outcry from people who were being victimized by molestation in the Catholic Church and so forth, nobody was really speaking to how to help people heal through that. I addressed that, from a non-bipartisan, non-biased, bipartisan perspective, just looking at the facts, not placing blame, but just helping people to heal.
So, what's your goal with this book? I mean, what is the end?
The
Some
end game.
authors say, I'm going to write this book because I want to be a millionaire. Some authors say, I want the fame. Some authors say, I want to help people. In your mind, Mr. Jonathan Archie, what is it that your end game here?
Yeah. Well, when I started the first chapter, I quickly knew that I wouldn't get rich. And because of the tone and style of the book, it wasn't written like a novel for a movie or a TV series. I mean, there are concepts in there. I really wrote it to help people and to help people feel better about themselves, to help people get healed and to become whole in their life. And if by chance I can sell enough to keep some food on my table, I'm grateful. But really, it was not written with a profit perspective in mind. And I've had other authors and publishing houses initially when I was shopping it around ask me the same question, and I know for them it was bad business because my focus wasn't money, making the money, and I understood that and respected that. But and I believe that of course, there's a component that I have to have for income. But I really wanted to change the landscape and the paradigm of people's life, and really allow them something that they could grab a hold to that can give them hope.
Let's continue on the path of hope, because as we're recording this, there are people who are watching or listening that may be going through some challenges. Some may be more deeper or painful than others. But for the ones that are going through these challenges where they're ready to throw the white flag up and say, you know what, enough. Life has beat me up way too much. It could be the single mother, an abusive relationship. It could be the person that just doesn't get a break in life. Why should they continue to have hope? Especially when they see, I'm asking you loaded questions,
No,
but
it's good. It's
especially when they see some people have it all and maybe life isn't going good for them.
What you have asked really is it really has become the catalyst for my new book. I wrote one, and it's still on hold. I just don't know quite yet when I'm going to release it. But I started to really look at areas of dysfunction and why people are dysfunctional. And it came to me when people lose hope in their life, then they give up. And so what started coming to me, God began to really deal with my heart and open up things as I begin to read and research and study. When people forget that they have a future, that's when despair sets in. So my quest now is to help people, to remind people again that they have a future. And in them embracing the reality that I have a future, automatically hope is going to come alive in their soul to want to get up and get out of that rut and to get out of that place of despair and that place of depression. There was, if you allow me to say this, that in the Bible, because I'm Christian, in the Bible, there's a narrative of a man who was laying at the pool of Bethesda. And the Bible says that he was laying there for 38 years. And I began to really think about, for somebody to really be impaired that long and to remain in that situation, it means that they have forgotten that they have a future. And when Jesus comes along and talks to him, he reminds him, you have a future. And when he reminded the man that he had a future, he asked him one question, one powerful question: do you want to be made whole? And when the man responded, he said, well, get up then. So that's kind of where I am now. I'm on a mission to remind people of the hope that they have, that they can find in any situation. And really all hope is just having expectation that things can get better, that things can change, that there is a brighter future, that tomorrow really will come if you embrace it and if you accept it.
So let's talk about writing. I'm a fan of writing.
Okay.
I write, I read, and I just keep up with that, and that's what I do. Why is writing so important? And two-part question: the why it's important, and do you think that now people are not writing as much?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, I love this. You've asked some very, very,
And
very
we haven't
powerful
practiced,
questions.
by the way.
No, this is good, though. This is good. Writing is important because it is a very pure platform of expression. It allows you to tell your story, to share your narrative. And that's important because everyone's life has value. Everyone's experiences have value. There's a story to every struggle. There's a success to every triumph. So writing is important because it gets your story out, it gets your narrative out, it gets your perspective out. And I've learned this, that when you write, it's cathartic. It allows you to see yourself in a way that you wouldn't see it if it was all bottled in. Number two to that question is I think that there is a shortage of writers. I would say I think the bar, now this is my soapbox now, I think the bar has really been lowered. I won't get in trouble here, hopefully, but especially when it comes to areas of like music and stuff, and sometimes I'll listen to lyrical content of rappers and writers, and I'm thinking, man, you're selling yourself so low by not challenging your brain and pushing the envelope to really be creative. I think writing allows you to go places in your mind that you can't go physically. It opens up dreams and possibilities and those things. I think our young people are not really embracing. They're trying to, in urban settings, it's a matter of survival. A lot of young people have stopped dreaming and they're just existing, and when you stop dreaming and you just exist, you tend to make bad decisions because you forget you have a future.
When did you realize that you want to write? I mean, because there's got to be a point where, all right, I'm doing this for class and just checking the box, and then it's like, wait a minute, I really like this, and let me start going down on this path.
I must say, it started in high school. I was in all the advanced honors classes that Fresno High had. I had some wonderful teachers. Anna Gade was one of them. And they just kept me writing. And it was really funny. I had a teacher, I can't think of his name right now, in my 11th grade year. This boy, at the time, I thought he was mean and cruel. But because my father was a minister, because that was my influence at the time, when I would turn in homework assignments, he would always give me an F. And I was like, why are you giving me an F? Like, I'm smart. What's wrong? He said, because your writing style sounds like you're a preacher. He said, you're writing in the head of in the voice of your father. So initially, I wanted to write because I wanted to disprove to my teacher that I had my own voice. So what started as a mission to prove him wrong became a passion. And then I was like, once I learned the fundamentals of writing and the power that it gives you to convey a story, I was hooked.
So we're running out of time this week on the program. I could talk to you for hours and hours about this stuff.
I'm enjoying this.
But where can people find out about your book? How can they purchase it? Tell us a little bit about it.
So They can find me on all digital outlets. You can go to follow me on Facebook, Jonathan Archie, Instagram, Jonathan Archie, Twitter, Jonathan Archie, and jonathanarchie.com, my website. And if you go to any of those outlets, we can assist you there, and you can get a hold of my resources and books. And we'll be launching some T-shirts and some other things that we have coming up in just a couple of weeks. So you'll be able to see all that I'm doing if you follow me on social media.
Lastly, your next book, any timeline on when it's coming out?
Yes, I have pushed it back. Like I said, that we had some issues with some initial publishing concerns, but now that I've launched my own company, I'm giving it about 6 months. And then you'll be able to
And
purchase
you'll
it.
come back and
Yes,
we'll talk about that.
I will be
and
honored to.
We'll
I'll be
help
glad to
you
come.
spread the word about
appreciate that,
your
Steve.
books and
Yes.
stuff like that. And thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
this week
It's
on
my
the
pleasure.
program. Good luck to you. I like your
you so
message. You're hope and positive, and you're out there
Thank you.
helping people. And so that's rare nowadays, as you know, because a lot of people are focused on the mighty dollar,
Yes.
and sometimes we forget the human aspect
Yes.
of things during that. So good luck to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. We've been recording out of the beautiful CMAC studios in downtown Fresno. Our director this evening has been Paul Starcevic, making us look and sound good. Thank you to our audience members listening to this broadcast on 90.7 FM, and also to those watching this broadcast on CMAC, Comcast 93, and AT&T 99. We hope you enjoyed the program. Our guest has been Mr. Jonathan Archie. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.
Welcome back to the Central Valley Ledger. Our guest for the second portion of the show is a familiar guest because we've had him on several months ago, Mr. Pastor Jonathan Archie. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Savag, it's good to be here. Thank
Welcome
you.
back.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there's a conference coming up that
Yes.
I want you to promote. But before we get there,
Okay.
I'm on your Facebook page. As they say, we're Facebook,
We're Facebook friends. Yes, yes, yes.
And you periodically, I don't know if they're on any specific time, but you periodically will be driving
Yeah.
and then you pull over
Yeah.
and you start talking and
Yeah.
you start educating
Yeah.
and you start getting in your zone
Right.
and motivated and powerful. What is it that you're doing?
Okay, so every Tuesday and every Friday around 9:45 a.m., especially if I'm on the West Coast, I do a 15-minute motivational talk. It's called the Prophet's Car. And my manager, Adamology, was like, you need to do something that you need to give back and inspire people outside of the pulpit. And I was like, oh, well, what do you suggest? He said, have a session in your car. You're driving.
Very creative.
Yeah, very different, right? You're driving to, because every Tuesday and Friday I teach a class, a ministry class. And so it was just a wonderful idea. So every Tuesday and every Friday, as I'm on my way to my class, I have this conversation in the car. Most of the conversation, of course, is very motivational. It has a very serious tone to it. Lately, though, I don't know what got in my head, but lately I've just had this this crazy, funny, inspirational thing where I've just really been hyped and amped. And so I've been probably a little more extra than I normally am, but it's all in good taste and good fun. I just love life. I love people, and I love what I do.
And I've noticed because you start and you're energized and then you start picking it up. I'm like, oh, here he goes. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So it's on your Facebook.
It's my Facebook
Tell us
page.
where your Facebook is so that people listening or watching can say, hey, I want to jump on there.
Certainly. So I'm on Facebook under Jonathan Archie. I'm on Instagram, Jonathan Archie. Twitter, Jonathan Archie. Any one of those social media platforms, you can find me. And again, every Tuesday and every Friday at 9:45 a.m. sharp, I come on, I give 15 minutes of just wonderful, uplifting, and powerful advice. I call them wisdom tools just to help us cope and get through our day.
And they're recorded, so someone can go back and watch it later on.
Yes.
One of the reasons that I wanted you to come back on is you're bringing some folks to Fresno.
Yes.
And these folks are going to be given a conference.
Yes.
But I'll let you explain.
So this is a dream come true. Again, I have a really great manager, and he was like, you know, I have a heavy schedule. There are 2 ministries that I'm actively involved in here in Fresno and Los Angeles. And so I have not had the time to focus on any personal ministry. And it's like, you got to relaunch and reload and really get out there again and come out of hibernation, right? So I began to think and pray about what are some of the things I can do to kind of relaunch my brand. And one of the things that came to me, because it's my passion, is to have a conference. I used to do conferences here in Fresno in the 90s. I was really known as a youth leader here in the area in the 90s with youth conferences, empowerment conferences, conferences that focused on health and wellness, education. So that's something that I've done in the past. But in this particular time, I wanted to focus on helping people understand their gift and their purpose in life. And so that's how the idea was birthed. And then to that, I called on some very wonderful friends of mine from across the country. Dr. Sierra Jones from Macon, Georgia, Dr. Kelvin Hall from Houston, Texas, Dr. Kevin Hall, they're both twins. They'll be coming. And then I have a young lady out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, Glenda Williams, and she'll be coming. And so all of them are, I guess, experts in their field, you know, different areas of ministry and focus, but they're all coming for just a 4-day intensive training on understanding what it is to be gifted, tapping into your purpose as a gifted person. So it's going to be really, really informative, really, really engaging, and I'm just excited to present it and bring it to Fresno.
Who should attend?
Anybody that has had experiences, dreams, visions, ideas, moments in their life where they've had things happen where they can't explain. Anybody who thinks they're gifted, feels they're gifted, anybody that wants to understand what it is to be gifted, anyone that wants to understand what it is to operate in abilities that are beyond their natural senses. It's just a very, 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 very powerful conference that will focus on unearthing the treasure that is within every person. Every person has a gift, and I just want to be able to offer them teaching that will help them understand that and bring clarity to their lives.
So it's not an all-day thing, right? It's three or 4 days.
Yes, 3 or 4 days. So Thursday and Friday, we'll have an evening service, but Saturday from 10 to 2 will be the intensive training session. Of course, to register, it's $50, and they can go to Eventbrite and type in Prophetic Gathering 2019 and register there. The day session on Saturday from 10 to 2 is going to really be a powerful, provocative, informative session. That one day, it'll be an intensive time. Yeah.
There's a small fee, but it doesn't sound like you're doing this for the money.
I'm not at all, not at all.
Because you're bringing people from all over.
Yeah, it's just covering the cost of materials, the copying of paper. No, I'm not doing it for the money, and this is why I waited, because I wanted to make sure that nobody had any excuse not to attend.
After someone comes to your conference, what are you looking for them to do? You know, you give back, you love people. Mm-hmm. After your conference, are you trying to spark something in somebody?
Absolutely. When the conference is done, the takeaway that I want each individual to have is that they're gifted and that they have unique qualities, unique abilities that will help them to inspire, to impact, and to motivate others. on an everyday basis. I mean, from the grocery store to the bank to the school, just helping them to understand that a kind word, a kind expression, these are tools and resources that we can use to impact and touch and change people's lives. And so I really want them to walk away motivated and determined to live their best life and to make a difference in the lives of others.
We're running out of time in the program. In your opinion, a small compliment to the person receiving it, could that make a difference?
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, I'm grateful for you, Savag, and these opportunities and outlets that give people in the Central Valley the opportunity to hear about events like this that can better their life.
Good luck on the event.
Thank you.
When is it again?
August the 1st through the 4th, and here in Fresno at the Moments of Blessings Church. That's 378 West Fallbrook in Northwest Fresno. And just come out and be a part of a wonderful time.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
Back
for
on
having
the
me.
program.
Thank you for having
Your
me.
Facebook page one last time so they can listen to you. And
Jonathan Archie on Facebook and Jonathan Archie on Instagram. Would love for you to stop by and visit and chat with me.
there you go. Well, good luck to you on your conference
Thank
and
you,
all
sir.
those other things. I'm watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. Thank you to our technical director, Paul Starcevic, for making us look and sound good. Our guest for the second portion of the program has been Pastor Mr. Jonathan Archie. The conference coming up here in Fresno. Come out and see what you can learn at this conference. Thank you to those listening to this broadcast on KFSR 90.7 FM and to those watching on CMAC, Comcast 93, and AT&T 99. We hope you enjoyed the program this week. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.